Now at 11, a historic ruling on reproductive rights. Roe v. Wade reversed. We're live outside the Supreme Court tonight.
The landmark decision prompting praise.
I think it's about time. It's about time. We've been really praying for this for many, many years now.
And protests in Boston and across the country.
We won't go back! Stand up! Fight back!
We're live on Beacon Hill with reaction.
From gay marriage to access to contraceptives, a growing concern that ending the right to abortion is just the beginning. We have night team coverage.
And there's more news tonight.
Flames tear through a skyscraper, creating more traffic trouble in downtown Boston.
I wasn't informed of this at all. This is just I can't believe this is happening.
Commuters say they were left in the dark.
And temps in the 70s and 80s today. Some towns near 90 this weekend.
7 News at 11 starts now. Now at 11.
It's a sad day for the court and for the country.
So many millions of lives will be saved by this decision.
The Supreme Court ruling sparking protests.
We deserve autonomy over our bodies.
And celebrations.
I've been fighting my entire adult life for this day.
We have night team coverage. Roe v. Wade reversed.
A monumental Supreme Court decision, and protesters have been gathering at the court since this morning when the announcement on the landmark ruling was made. Justices say there is no constitutional right to get an abortion, reversing nearly 50 years of precedent.
And that reversal sparking a strong emotional response all across the country, a divisive decision. Pro-choice groups taking to the streets to protest, many shocked at the reversal of the reproductive rights, tearing up, I should say, and hugging each other. Conservatives, meanwhile, celebrating the historic ruling. Pro-life supporters outside of the court popping champagne and praising the decision. Some have been fighting for years to overturn Roe.
In Boston, we found hundreds of people marching through the streets to protest the decision. That group vowing to fight to protect abortion rights across the country. And people across the country rallying around rights, from New York City to Washington, D.C., more demonstrations down south in Louisville and in Detroit. We have night team coverage of this monumental decision, including what the ruling means for women across the country and here in Massachusetts. Let's get started with the night team's Dan Housley live outside the Supreme Court. Dan?
Well, Kim and Jody, things are finally calming down here. The last speaker finished up about 5 minutes ago, but said they're all coming back here tomorrow to continue these protests. Generally, it's been pro-choice protesters, but some pro-life protesters here as well, all calmly coexisting generally. And this ruling was expected, but still it hit both sides like a thunderbolt. Emotions erupt outside the Supreme Court after the High Court struck down a woman's right to an abortion.
I mean, it's awful. It's terrible. It's the worst day ever.
I know that this has been the law of land for 49 years, and it saddens me because I think every unborn life has a chance, should have a chance to live.
Chief Justice John Roberts reluctantly joined the other 5 conservative justices for a 6-3 decision reversing Roe v. Wade and Casey, 2 decisions that established a constitutional right to an abortion more than 50 years ago. But writing for the majority, Justice Samuel Alito argued Roe was egregiously wrong from the start, adding its reasoning was exceptionally weak and the decision has had damaging consequences. And far from bringing about a national settlement of the abortion issue, Roe and Casey have inflamed debate and deepened division. In a separate concurring opinion, Chief Justice Roberts wrote he would have preferred a narrower ruling that curbed abortion rights but didn't eliminate them. The dissenting justices argued the rejection of such an important and long-standing precedent would further erode public trust in the court. Justices Stephen Breyer, Elena Kagan, and Sonia Sotomayor writing, in overruling Roe and Casey, this court betrays its guiding principles, adding, with sorrow for this court, but more for the many millions of American women who have today lost a fundamental constitutional protection, we dissent. President Biden condemned the court's decision and called on Congress to establish a federal right to an abortion by law.
It's cruel. In fact, the court laid out state laws criminalizing abortion that go back to the 1800s as rationale. The court literally taking America back 150 years. This is a sad day for the country, in my view. but it doesn't mean the fight's over.
Justice Clarence Thomas suggested the court's reasoning in this ruling might endanger other rights. Justice Thomas writing in a separate concurring opinion, in future cases, we should reconsider all of this court's substantive due process precedents, specifically referring to decisions on contraception, sodomy, and gay marriage. Justice Alito, in his decision, said the reversal should not extend to those issues, but the dissenting justices were not convinced, writing, "No one should be confident that this majority is done with its work." This will heat up the abortion debate in Congress, where the top Republican in the House says there's no need to change federal law.
The Supreme Court was not bullied by the far-left mob. Threats of violence against the justices did not win. We live in a country that is based on the dignity of all human life.
Democrats acknowledge they don't have the votes to change the law right now, so instead they'll concentrate on getting more votes in the election in the fall. Meanwhile, the Democrats do control the committees, and the Senate Judiciary Committee next week plans to hold hearings on what a post-Roe America looks like. We're live outside the Supreme Court in Washington. Dan Housley, 7 News Night Team.
Dan, let's talk about reaction on the Republican side, which is mixed, with one prominent Republican from Maine saying she feels misled.
Well, Susan Collins was a key vote, in particularly the Kavanaugh vote to put him on the court, along with also the Gorsuch, putting him on the court. And she says she feels she was misled in their private meetings before that vote and in their public testimony, where she says they expressed support for longstanding precedents that this country has relied upon. So while she voted for them, she now feels that that may have been the wrong call. Back to you.
Night Team's Dan Housley live outside the Supreme Court tonight. Thank you.
And today's ruling having an immediate impact in places all across the country. So let's break it down. These states highlighted in red are the states that have trigger bans, which will outlaw abortions within a month's time. The states highlighted in orange show the states that don't have those trigger laws, but will likely ban abortions at some point to come. The states highlighted in green are the states where abortions will likely remain legal. That includes Massachusetts, and the states with no color on that map have yet to make a decision. Now, abortion is protected in Massachusetts by the state constitution, and today Governor Charlie Baker issued an executive order protecting access to reproductive health. The 19's Kim Lucy outside of the State House with more details.
You can see the protest signs still lining the fence in front of the State House right here behind me. Many people who came out today told me they're concerned about what this means for the future, even here in Massachusetts. Making their voices heard through the streets of Boston, people against overturning Roe v. Wade say they can't help but be concerned about what comes next.
We're reversing, and we're worse than reversing because we've learned so much more. We've gained so much technology. We've done so much research, and somehow this is what we're back to.
Hearing the concerns, Governor Charlie Baker issued an executive order after the ruling to protect access in Massachusetts, writing, "I am deeply disappointed in today's decision by the Supreme Court, which will have major consequences for women across the country who live in states with limited access to reproductive health care services." The Commonwealth has long been a leader in protecting a woman's right to choose and access to reproductive health services, while other states have criminalized or otherwise restricted access. The governor's order also protects patients who come for abortion services here and protects doctors in Massachusetts from potential out-of-state charges. The Commonwealth says it will also not help with any criminal investigations resulting from an abortion done in the state. Abortion is legal in Massachusetts, protected in the state constitution. But lawmakers say the governor's executive order was much needed.
We have states currently like Texas and Oklahoma that have passed laws that allow individuals to sue people who help others seek abortion care or provide abortion care or seek abortion care themselves. So that means that there are potential liabilities and potential risk.
State Representative Lindsay Sabadosa says she believes legislators will look to codify the order into law since Governor Baker's final term as governor will soon be up. At local hospitals and clinics, doctors say they've already seen the impact of restrictions in other parts of the country.
At Boston Medical Center, we have already started to see patients from Texas. We know that patients who have the resources are going to continue to come to Boston, to Massachusetts, which delays care for everyone as abortion appointments start to become more rare or harder to get.
Dr. Catherine White, who you just heard from there, she says those delays could mean some women with health risks could get more sick. Others may have to wait until later in their pregnancies than they would like in order to seek care. It also will likely disproportionately affect minorities and lower income families. And she says medical providers are already trying to work to mitigate the consequences and get ahead of that. On Beacon Hill tonight, Kim Lucy, 7 News 19.
Passionate plea in Boston today from pro-choice advocates, hundreds marching outside Copley Square, and say they're worried about what this decision could mean. Local leaders also joining those protesters today in affirming a woman's right to get an abortion. Night Team's Justin Doherty in Copley Square with that reaction.
And these demonstrations started early in the day and then ended tonight. And it was really two groups that came together for one massive demonstration. And it started here with a rally at Copley Square and a march to the State House.
Abortion rights! Now!
Protesters packing the streets.
Democrats, we call your bluff!
And staging a sit-in to block traffic for 19 minutes and 73 seconds to signify the year Roe v. Wade became the law of the land. It all ended with a rally in Copley Square to protest today's Supreme Court decision.
I can't give up. I won't give up. We won't give up. We deserve autonomy over our bodies.
Abortion is an extremely personal decision that should be made with a woman and her doctor.
The demonstrations in support of abortion rights were underway as soon as the High Court handed down its 6-3 ruling and leaving the decision up to the states. Elected leaders in Massachusetts joining the demonstrators to affirm that abortion rights in the Commonwealth will remain protected.
I am angry and determined. We are not going back. Not now, not ever.
It is heartbreaking to see us in a day where my kids and their generation will not know better than before, potentially.
Protesters in Massachusetts say despite the protections in the state, they still feel the need to speak out, fearing what this decision could mean for women across the country.
We have to stick up for each other. We have to be vigilant. We have to help each other through this crisis.
Protesters we spoke to say this is just the beginning. You can expect more demonstrations to come. In Boston, Justin Doherty, 7 News 19.
Millions of Americans praising this landmark decision. Pro-life supporters say this is a step in the right direction, and they believe it shows that more Americans value the life of an unborn child.
I think it's about time. It's about time. We've been really praying for this for many, many years now.
Pro-life supporters are applauding this moment in history.
I'm very pleased with the way the decision went.
Also welcoming the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, Cardinal Sean O'Malley. He released this statement. The church has consistently opposed the moral and legal dimensions of Roe v. Wade. We also adamantly reject stigmatizing, criminalizing, judging, or shaming women who have had abortions or are considering them. Too often isolated and desperate, women have felt that they had no other choice. They need and deserve spiritual, emotional, and material support from the church and from society. The Cardinal going on to say, as a bishop and a citizen, I hope and pray we can create a culture that protects the most vulnerable at the beginning of life and at any time life is threatened in any way.
Abortion is not empowering. It is not freedom. It is harmful, and it is beneath what women deserve.
President of the Massachusetts Citizens for Life, Myrna Maloney Flynn, says now is the time for a real and respectful dialogue
that will enable both sides to first understand each other in a way that we haven't been able to achieve to date. And again, at the heart of this dialogue must be the truth. These are human lives deserving of protection, deserving of the right to life.
Calling abortion itself a travesty, the president of the Massachusetts Family Institute, Andrew Beckwith, feels this decision is a result of more and more Americans realizing human life is precious.
There has to be a better answer than taking the life of an unborn child.
A bottom line echoed by pro-life supporters.
Saving babies' lives. That's exactly why we're out here, to save the babies' lives.
It's still the taking of an innocent human life at the end of the day.
Pro-life organizations believe there is still work to be done and say that work is just getting started in Massachusetts. And the Supreme Court's landmark ruling to overturn Roe v. Wade came about because of a Mississippi law. Pro-life protesters gathering outside of the last clinic that provides abortions in Mississippi before the decision was announced. They stood with signs shouting at cars leaving the parking lot. And after the ruling came down, workers at the clinic said they were heartbroken.
And these people have given their time and their energy selflessly for all these years to do this. And now we're going to say goodbye very soon. Today, across this country, half the population were stripped of their human rights.
Abortion will remain legal in Mississippi until the state's trigger laws go into effect. That likely will happen within the next 10 days.
Well, with the reversal of Roe versus Wade, some now fear other rights might be taken away. 19's Ryan Schulteis is here with more on those concerns.
Kim, the main opinion of the court is focused on abortion, but a concurrent opinion from Justice Clarence Thomas makes it clear he doesn't think the Constitution protects many of the rights the court has said it does, and he wants those decisions overturned.
Justice Thomas said as much today. He explicitly called to reconsider the right of marriage equality, the right of couples to make their choices on contraception.
The Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade could pave the way to overturn other precedents previously decided by the court.
The analysis that Justice Alito spelled out to explain why the right to choose is not protected could also explain why the right to same-sex marriage is not protected, or the right to for couples to make certain decisions about contraception.
In the majority opinion, Justice Samuel Alito said the decision only applied to abortion. But in a separate opinion, Justice Clarence Thomas says the ruling should apply further, writing, "In future cases, we should reconsider all of the court's substantial due process precedents, including Griswold, Lawrence, and Obergefell. Those cases involve the right to use contraception, the right for gay people to have sex, and the right for gay people to get married."
Because this is so unusual that the court is revisiting a precedent that's 50 years old, there are probably some advocates who feel like with another change in personnel in the court, they might be able to reverse this decision.
Thomas argues that since the court ruled that the right to get an abortion is not a form of liberty protected by the Due Process Clause in the 14th Amendment, that same argument should be used to eliminate those other rights.
I think that there's going to be a lot of thinking about the arguments that can be made before the court regarding a lot of recent decisions that one group or another doesn't like.
President Biden urged Americans to elect more members of Congress during the midterm elections who still support protecting abortion legislation. In the newsroom, Ryan Schulteis, 7 News 19.
And in the wake of the Roe v. Wade reversal, several corporations are now offering help to their employees if they need access to abortion care. Just some of those companies that have pledged their financial support for employees and in some cases dependents to seek an abortion include Disney, Netflix, Amazon, Apple, Starbucks, and Lyft. And if you want to read the court's opinion yourself, you can open the camera on your cell phone, point it at that QR code on your screen right there, and you'll want to click on the pop-up. That'll take you to our website. We have the majority opinions as well as the dissents listed for you there. It's more than 200 pages long, but you can find it right now on WHDH.com.
Let's talk about nighttime weather now and a live look at Boston right here behind me tonight. New England closing out the work week with this beautiful day, and the heat is on for the weekend. Let's check it out. Here is Chief Meteorologist Jeremy Reiner. And what kind of heat are we talking?
Well, I think we'll be around 90 inland, and then at the coastline you'll have a bit of a sea breeze. So I don't think Boston is going to reach 90 this weekend, but we will run the numbers up into the mid-80s in the city. These were the high temps outside of New England. Green Bay 94 this afternoon. Chicago 92. It's been a hot week for the center part of the nation, but high pressure east of New England most of the week has blocked that heat from advancing east, but that's changing with high pressure settling to the south of New England overnight tonight. Current temps 60s and 70s. Dew point temps, they are in the low to mid 60s, so there is some humidity out there. For tonight, mostly clear, humid. Lows only 62 to 67. For tomorrow, 66 at 7 a.m. You'll feel the mugginess, but the humidity will go away as we go through the day. It becomes more of a dry heat with mostly sunny skies. Temps tomorrow, 70s and 80s at the coast, 90 farther inland. Sunday forecast coming up in a couple minutes.
Also from the night team, a fire, several stories up. 150 firefighters responding to this massive blaze in downtown Boston today. That smoke and those flames pouring from the new State Street building right at Government Center. The fire creating even more traffic trouble for commuters who say they're already feeling frustrated tonight with the ongoing T issues in that same area. The night team's Michael Yoshida in Boston with the very latest.
Friday morning, it was a nightmare for commuters after flames broke out on the 20th floor of this high-rise. The response to the fire just compounding other traffic troubles for those in the area. Flames tearing through the 20th floor of a high-rise in downtown Boston. The fire started around 10:30 Friday morning on Congress Street at the new State Street building, which is under construction. 300 to 400 work crews were evacuated. One was taken to the hospital with minor injuries. Around 150 firefighters battled the blaze, and nearby roads were closed, causing headaches for drivers and commuters who were already dealing with emergency service changes to the T. The MBTA suspending orange and green line service in the area around Government Center, the move leaving some commuters feeling left in the dark.
I wasn't informed of this at all. This is just a I can't believe this has happened.
They have to do better. Yes, because our buses wants us to be at work at a certain time, and I'm late.
The MBTA says the switch to shuttles is because of a structural issue with the Government Center garage, which has train tunnels running underneath it. They say it could be days before service resumes.
They should have let people know that this was going to happen today, and they didn't. And there's a lot of people stranded, and that doesn't make any sense.
So now I got to walk. Taking the shuttle bus can take longer because of traffic, so I'll just walk. Didn't know all this stuff was going on.
Shuttles are replacing Green Line service between Government Center and Leechmere. Meanwhile, the Orange Line is suspended between North Station and Back Bay. That's affecting 7 stops. Riders saying enough is enough.
Get it together, get a plan.
Past, month or two has been tough with the Green Line issues and everything too. It's definitely not ideal, but hopefully they fix all their structural things and whatnot.
And the cause of this fire, that remains under investigation. As for the MBTA, they say those service changes will remain in effect until those lines are deemed safe. Reporting in Boston, Mike Whdh, 7 News 19.
Heads up, the Sumner Tunnel will be staying open this weekend because of all the other traffic trouble in Boston. With the new summer schedule, the tunnel was scheduled to close beginning tonight at 11 and stay closed through Monday morning at 5 a.m. But Mass DOT hopes to ease some of the burden with service issues on the MBTA's orange and green lines.
And there's more news tonight. Congress has approved a new gun control package ending a decades-long legislative stalemate. The Safer Communities Act was overwhelmingly approved in the House Friday after passing in the Senate on Thursday. The bill includes $750 million for mental health, school safety, crisis intervention programs, and incentives for states to enact red flag laws. It also makes changes to the gun purchasing process for people ages 18 to 21. The bill now heads to the president's desk, and he is expected to sign it.
Still to come from the night team, JR is still standing by so he can talk more about that fabulous weather.
Sunshine for both tomorrow and Sunday.
Also off the runway, a plane finally moved after a crash landing in Florida. An update on the ongoing investigation. We'll be right back.